Welcome to Face2Face. This is a show about change and about what's next. It's a show that wants to ask questions, peel back the layers of our average everyday experience, and go beyond scratching the surface. We interview amazing people with incredible ideas and stories who have done wild, weird, and wonderful things. Remember that imagination shared creates collaboration, and collaboration creates community, and community inspires social change. I'm David Peck, and this is Face2Face. So my next interview is with writer, director, producer Marie Clements and one of the actors from her new film, Red Snow, Jamalzadah. We talk about this film. We talk about why Marie and Mozhdah is a big deal as well. And I hope I got a smile out of both of them if they're listening. We talk about survival stories and the importance of metaphor and symbol and why snow matters so much, not only to this story, but frankly to the future of the human race, if you ask me. We talk about what ways of seeing and about being in the zone and about being a woman's rights activist and what it means to have a feminist father. And we talk about magic and poetry and how it plays out in the realism found in this narrative film. And this is a beautiful lyrical poetic film. You're going to want to see this. I hope you're going to stay tuned right till the end of the interview. We have a lot of fun and we talk about so many things, it seems to me, that matter. We talk about the simple things that make us human and why are there 10,000 words for snow and what does that exactly mean? So we talk about war and peace and about bridging cultures and clash and cultures coming together and clashing and why these types of questions, certainly during a time of COVID, are maybe in some way more relevant than they were before. They've always been relevant for sure, to just kind of land and realize that we really are all in this together and that there is similarity through difference and that we have so much more in common than we realize. Peel back a layer or two and what you'll find is those things we have in common. So stay tuned. Coming right up, a wonderful interview here in conversation that we had about the film Red Snow with Jamalzadah and Marie Clements. Don't forget davidpecklive.com for more information about my writing and my speaking. You can purchase a copy of my book, Real Change is Incremental, there through Amazon. I'd love it if you did that. And also face2facelive.ca for more information about my podcasting. We're well over 500 interviews. Sign up for the newsletter. We've got quite a following now, and we're into thousands of downloads after, I don't know, I think I'm in my 7th year of podcasting, which is just kind of crazy talk, really, in so many ways. So many conversations behind me, and I hope so many more to come. And we seem to be more and more focusing on the filmmakers and documentarians and storytellers and touching on this thing called empathy. And isn't that really what matters? So face2facelive.ca for a host of other interviews there. You can advertise with us. You can advertise in our newsletter, on our website. We're getting thousands of hits every month. So stay tuned for that. And if you're interested, let me know through email, and we can help you out. You can also advertise actually embedded in the interviews as well. So think about that and on the website too. Also, you can support what we're doing here at Patreon. That's a really simple way of stepping in. I know I've done that for a few other people who are podcasting, a few other creators out there. Even a few dollars a month can help as it builds. And if you can't do any of that, which I totally understand, if you could leave us a review on iTunes, it would be it would be very similar to a donation of your time. A few stars and a comment or two would be lovely. Please, if you can, we'd really appreciate that. Share it with your friends and family. And don't forget, we also appear on Rabble.ca, where you can find more bloggers and writers and thinkers and podcasters talking about news that really matters. News for the rest of us. That's on Rabble. So stay tuned. Coming right up, a fascinating interview about the new film, Red Snow. Well, welcome to Face2Face. We're joined by two very special guests here with us today to talk about a new film that's going to be available on Apple TV Canada and everywhere soon, we hope, but it's called Red Snow. It's an important film. It's a Canadian film. And we have today with us one of the actors from the film and the producer, writer, director. We have Jamalzadah with us and Marie Clements. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us, David.
Thank you.
Real pleasure to have you here, and to both of you, congratulations on the film. It's can I say it's a fascinating story, but it's also important. Marie, am I allowed to say that?
Oh, it's always good to hear fascinating and important in the same sentence, right?
Yeah, because it's interesting, because sometimes I'll watch a film like this, and then I hope you're going to be willing to share a little bit about the storyline, and you never quite know with writer directors, where they want to go, and they're worried about tipping the audience too much before people actually get to see it. I really am hoping people will enjoy the interview and step into it here with us today, but also reach out and actually watch the film too. And as I said, it's fascinating. It's a beautiful film too, by the way, stunning and lyrical and poetic. So and I love how you use snow in so many different ways, and maybe that might be a nice way to step into the narrative side of what Red Snow really is all about.
Sure. I mean, just simply, it's about a Gwich'in soldier from the Arctic who ends up in Afghanistan and is in an ambush and taken hostage by the Taliban. And he uses his upbringing in the north. He uses memories of his family and his first love to survive, and ends up. I don't know, having to understand that to survive in a certain and where he's at in the moment of this film, that it brings him closer to a Pashtun family, the translator who betrayed him and got him in the situation. They have to come to terms with each other, and by doing so, they're working to survive.
Would you say that this, you said, it sounded to me like you almost said it was a survival story. I don't think you actually used those words, but how would you describe this, and, that classic 30-second elevator speech, which I've never really liked, by the way. I studied philosophy for years, and I usually use way too many words to say one very simple thing. But anyway, how would you talk about Red Snow? I mean, to me, it's about family. It's about crossing cultures and listening to others and similarity through difference and so many wonderful layered things. But I'd love to hear from you what the thematic sort of points of reference, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a part of it was looking at how, as Indigenous peoples, how we can and how we have used our identity to help us
Mm.
survive, the many wars, not only in this country but the wars worldwide. And it was just a really kind of an opportunity, a bit of grace to be able to look at Indigenous peoples from Afghanistan and have them look at Indigenous peoples from Canada and kind of really compare and see what reflected, what we saw in each other and what we didn't. So that was kind of one of the greatest gifts, really.
There's some really great, beautiful moments where, to me, they're almost like acts of recognition. Where, and I'm probably going to get his name wrong, but is it the one of the Taliban soldiers? Is his name Ramiz?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. So there's that moment where he realizes that maybe he's not dealing with the American or the Canadian in the way he's been led to believe, like this idea of stereotypes on sort of both sides, if I'm allowed to polarize it in a way. Mozhdah, I wonder if you could talk to that a little bit about that those cultures clashing, if you will.
Yeah, you mean about Ramiz not understanding that this person could be, in fact, not a Canadian or an English-speaking person,
Or a Christian, right? He says you're a
or a
Christian,
Christian.
right? Yes,
Yeah,
like
so the
question mark,
stereotype.
right? You're
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
faithless. What does he say? You're faithless or something.
you're faithless.
You're godless. Yeah. How could you
Yeah,
possibly
basically,
believe in
like,
anything else?
yeah, the stereotype thing we have to understand and accept that it happens everywhere, and um, racism happens everywhere. I can tell
Mm.
you that I've come across really racist Afghans, and it's mind-boggling because a lot of people just kind of focus on just a certain type of people being racist or a certain type of people being the victims of racism. But I think everybody is capable of both, and so with stereotyping and things like that, and again, this movie is all about that. This movie is just to show that in the end we're all human
Mm.
and we're all the same. And that's the amazing part about it. And it just shows how people stereotype, and it's completely wrong for them to do that. So
Marie, when you went, when you started to put this together, I'm sure this was a very, classic labor of love. I would think that a lot of filmmaking falls into that, certainly for documentary filmmakers. But I would think in this case too. Do you go in saying, "I want to make a film," or "I want to tell a story about this," and then you find, when you're in that post production, you're sitting in the theater watching it, and you're saying, "Wow, look what we wound up with." If that A to B, that journey, can you talk a little bit about that creative process and where you started and where you wound up?
Yeah, I think what's it's often I find it's just a really great thing to be able to write something that comes from a certain place, and then as a director to be able to execute that vision. And I think that kind of connection between the two, I guess, two eyes or two ways of seeing, often are at odds with each other. But I
Mm.
think what you're really trying to do is execute what you saw on the page, and then what you see before you. And I kind of love that process, because it's there's magic in it, because you're
Mm.
writing for years on a scene, or the whole feature really, and then you get to see it in real time, embodied in front of you with real breathing people that can tell the story. So I think by the time you get to set and you're seeing something that you've written for 9-10 years, you're pretty there's just, I think there's power in that.
Mm.
And so you're really trying to carve it to everything that you dreamed and everything that you worked and saw that the story could be. And I think that continues, through the shooting process, obviously, and then into post-production. And you're right, you do find different things, and you find different realizations.
Right.
But I think you're always holding on to the story in a way that is kind of integral, and that was your responsibility in the beginning. And so I think that all the work really is to be responsible to the telling of it.
Mozhdah, was it different for you from reading to acting and performing in it, and then seeing it on the screen, and I guess probably Q&As afterwards at some of the festivals that you probably appeared at? But how much of a leap was that for you?
For me, that was probably one of the best experiences of my life
Mm.
overall. I think just reading the script already got me in the zone, So
Right.
I read the script actually, Marie approached me with the script quite early on,
Oh, okay.
before they had anything set up. And I fell in love with the script to the point where I wasn't an actor, and I wasn't, planning to go into acting. Once I read this script, I was like, I have to. I mean, and I have to get enough practice, and I have to be ready for this role. So I got an agent, I got into it, I got into the whole acting thing, and started auditioning, started mentally preparing myself for this role, because it was so important to me. I'm a women's rights activist. I grew up with a
Mm.
feminist father, and now there's this dream role that came to me by Marie, the amazing Marie. And I had to do my part, to really do well in it, or as well as I possibly could. So I'm glad she came to me early on, because I had that time to prepare. I had that time to play smaller roles here and there and learn the business. And, I didn't want to disappoint Marie Clements. I mean, she's a big deal. So,
Super.
and the
Hey,
fact that
Marie,
she trusted me to play this role.
Yeah, I think I need for Marie to respond to "She's a big deal."
Aw. Well, it was. I mean, I think it was such a. I mean, to me, when I met Mozhdah, I really did feel that I saw Katira, and um,
Nice.
and so that's always a crazy thing when you go, oh, I cannot see anybody else in this role, and to me, she embodied everything that I loved about the character, who was resilient and strong and beautiful, and had a will to
Mm.
survive, despite what was before her. So I think those, the character and, Mozhdah just kind of became one in my mind, and I think that is really well. We see that in the film. We see that.
I think in the beginning, Marie was, I told you, Marie, remember, I was like, I'm not an actor. And you're like, no, but you would be perfect for this role. I was trying to convince Marie, like, there's other actors, other people that could
Right,
actually
right.
act.
Yeah,
And I
why
didn't
are you
want to
picking me? Yeah.
and she's like, no, I'm the director. Like, you're fine. I'm like,
That's
oh,
right.
wow.
I'm a big deal. Is that what she said to
Yeah.
you?
No,
Oh my God.
she's so humble.
That
I'm a
that's
big girl.
awesome.
You have to come my way. No, I did not do that.
Mozhdah, you said when you were talking about reading the script, you said get me in the zone. So woman rights activist, feminist father. I'd love to hear more about that. Your book, Voice of Rebellion. Tell us about that. What do you mean by getting you into the zone? I mean, obviously as an actor and saying, "Wow, this is for me," but it sounds like there was more going on here than meets the eye.
I think the entire thing was just the universe, and it was magic. I can't even explain what it was, the feeling to just like when I read that script. I mean, when I got into singing, people were like, "Oh, you need to act too. You need to act too." And every time I brushed it off, I was like, "No." I got approached with scripts, and there were roles that were brought to me by some other directors here and there, and they were very weak characters, and right away I would read like the first page and I'm like, nope. I just read my lines and be like, no, this isn't how I want to get into acting if I do. And then
Right.
all of a sudden I get Marie, like I get a message in my Facebook inbox, and I get hundreds a day, right? So I'm
Wow.
looking randomly, and then out of all of them, my eyes filter out and I see Marie Clements, and I knew who she was because she's a big deal,
Wow.
like I said.
Cool.
And so I was like, oh, this is a prank. Somebody's pulling a prank on me. So I opened
Right.
the page, and even though I was already a successful singer, I'm still thinking there's no way Marie Clements is going to message me. So I open it, and still I'm hesitant. And then I'm like setting up a meeting with her, and I'm still like, this is a joke. This is a prank. It's like one of those TV things where they're going to, put the camera on me and laugh later. Um, and I show up, and it's Marie. She's sitting there, and she shows me the script, and I read like the first page, and it's so poetic. It's so magical. It's so amazing. And I'm just drawn into it. And yeah, like right away, I dedicated my time and myself into this film because I believed in it so much. And it's just like, it's beautiful. It's beautifully written. It has so many different meanings. It's so poetic, like you said earlier. And I just had to be a part of it. I'm so grateful. I'm still so grateful that she chose me every day. And I remember being on set and realize, like, yeah, like you said, just to see it all come together. And so you're
Mm.
reading the script, and now you're seeing everyone, and you're seeing the characters and the settings and everything. And it's so surreal, it's so magical, and I was trying to take in every moment of it because I knew how special this was.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's cool. Um, Marie, I just a little aside, and maybe you can talk about the practicalities of this. This isn't really the question I want to ask, but as Mozhdah was talking about, the sets and so on, how did you make the Northwest Territories look like Afghanistan, by the way? So that's a little aside question, but I am interested from a practical sort of logistical perspective. That's really interesting to me. But I really also want you to talk about snow. There's just
Okay.
something so beautiful and profound and simple and poetic about the snowfall. And we start in snow, I believe, and we end in snow. And we talk about new beginnings. And I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about where that came from and sort of what you maybe had in mind.
Yeah. The good news is that we didn't have to make. We shot in Yellowknife and in a
Mm.
small community called Deda, and the film community and the communities up there just kind of wrapped their arms around us, and we were able to, shoot in a weather that was. I don't know. I always love to think I'm exaggerating, but the other producers up there say, no, you weren't. It was minus 51. So
Oh,
we,
wow. Okay. I've been cold. I've been about minus 38, and I've been to Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar. That was cold. But minus 51, that you got me beat.
yeah. And then, we were laughing at Mozhdah and some of the other actors that came up for, I guess, the last scene in the movie. And I think, tell them what you were wearing on your feet, Mozhdah.
Did you really have to go there, Marie? They're always teasing me about this because I was wearing, like, high-heeled boots. You know, those, like, the fancy high-heeled boots that do not cover anything, and then my jacket, I took the thickest jacket I had. I mean, really, living in Vancouver, what kind of the thickest, heaviest jacket you'd have is still not heavy enough for even, like, Toronto weather, let alone the north,
Mm.
the north. So I'm wearing this white jacket with this hoodie, and I get there, and we're going for a walk. And after a minute of walking, I feel like I'm about to faint. And they're wrapping like fur around me, and I'm going, no, I don't want fur. And they're like, well, if you don't want fur in the north, then you're gonna die. This isn't Los Angeles, Beverly Hills. Okay, stop pulling the whole Beverly Hills I don't want fur thing. It doesn't work here in the north. And
Yeah.
it
Who
was
is this
so
diva? Yeah.
I don't want fur. No, it's like you're gonna die.
Oh, she was in the fur pretty fast after that. Yeah.
I was.
I bet. Talk about the practicalities, of being on set. Wow, 51 degrees. That's crazy talk.
It's really cold. I mean, wow.
Yeah, and then we shot um, the interior of BC, Kamloops and Cache Creek, and Ashcroft for Afghanistan.
Hmm.
That's and again, it was the extreme. It was literally plus
36 degrees. Yeah,
38, 40. It was so hot.
it was.
So we had both experiences, and it really did, in many ways, follow the journey of the film, like the
Mm.
narrative itself. We were,
Sure.
you know, walking and climbing hills and rocks, and we wouldn't let her wear her high heels. It was
So
It's funny
was she
because
wearing those high heels in any scenes that were actually shot where we don't see her
no,
feet?
no, I was just
Because
gonna
that would have been
say
really funny. Yeah.
they did the complete opposite to me. I was like constantly they're like, she's not dirty enough, put more dirt on her. They had like the fake dirt. And then like my outfits were all baggy and man outfits and turbans and stuff and guns, and it was just so opposite of how they saw me in the north, wearing those
Right.
boots and the heels.
When you mentioned high heels, Marie, I actually thought in a scene, and I would think that all the folks on the cameras and behind them would be having to keep their, like how would you not break out laughing if that was the case? But anyway, so it sounds like you had that one covered.
yeah.
Tell us more about the snow, the metaphor, the new beginnings, the footsteps. We've got blood in the snow, red snow. I mean, it's just there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, it came from the character of Asana, who's a young girl in the north. She's an Inuit, and she's Dylan's first love, and so it really came out of her kind of her imagination that she was
Mm,
collecting words for snow. And way back when, I think early 1900s, there was an explorer that went to the north, and there's a big mythology around it that there was 10,000 words for snow.
right.
And so this young girl is collecting her words for snow in her own language, and I kind of love the idea that even though she leaves, she uses those words for snow to protect him and protect this new family. So she's able to create kind of a storm of snow, a storm of words that will allow them to have potentially a new beginning.
Well, I so love how, and I don't think we're going to give too much away here by talking about the snow at the end and how you kind of wrap things up in a sense, and this idea and this beautiful, beautiful image of snow falling upwards. And for me, it's so about stepping back and turning it upside down, I guess, in a way. And isn't that what we're going to have to do in order to get to a different place? Forget about COVID for the time being, even though we're all kind of in this together. Let's hope that sticks with us, right? When we're talking about others and so on. I mean, isn't that one of the messages of Red Snow that, and I think sort of circling back to, that what was that? Aman, he's the translator. He's betrayed, right? Through translation. I thought that was really interesting too, from a language perspective and a philosophical sort of notion. But this idea that others are really just mirrors of ourselves, speaking different languages, coming from different cultures, etc. How do we get on the same page? You know, and I wonder, is that a question that kind of drove you as you wrote the script for Red Snow?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the beginning, I was looking at these two cultures from opposite sides of the world that had survived, many wars with
Mm,
so much grace. And you come to understand that yes, one, people are more than one thing, uh,
right,
and two, that we have more in common than we have. That is different, that we as
right.
people, we have more in common. And I think we're really fighting for our people to survive in a good way. We're really fighting for the simple things that keep us human. And I think a lot of us are on the same page, hoping uh, hoping that for the world, for all people, not just some.
Mm.
The simple things that make us human. Did Aman say something to the effect of near the end of the film, being a human costs?
Yes, yeah,
Is that the line?
yes.
There's a certain risk taking in any kind of a relationship. Is that where you were going with that?
Yeah, I think there's obviously a risk in relationship, but also there's a risk in doing the right thing.
Right.
And
Oh.
you
There's
said,
so many amazing lines in that movie. It gave me goosebumps. I mean, even watching it, again with the screenings and stuff. Every time I watched it in the screenings, like I understood more and more of the lines. Like you
Mm,
can't just watch it once.
right.
You got to watch it, like you got to watch it over and over again to really understand the full meaning behind it. And I still haven't gotten to
Yeah,
all of it.
I think that's so true, right? I mean, any great book is worth going back to. Any great film is worth
Exactly.
going back
Yes.
to, and you always peel back layers. I mean,
Yep.
I've having now spent about 5 6 years really diving in, and I'm a note taker now when I watch movies, right? And
Wow.
because I'm prepping for my interviews, and you just go, holy smokes, I never saw that before, and
Yeah.
look at that, and look at
Like
that
I missed
connection,
that.
and gee, I wonder if that was intentional. I
Yeah.
love that stuff.
Exactly.
I love the connecting the dots. But you're right, Musto, about the so many great lines. I love the extreme beliefs change the true face of God. I mean, it's you
Oh
didn't.
yeah.
I love how Ramiz says to Dylan, you didn't ask me my name. So good,
Oh yes.
so important. Like for me, that was like that's the film in the nutshell, right? In a way. Hey, Musta, tell me a little bit more about your activism, and you're a teacher in this film, and I think, or are you the
Yes.
daughter? Are you the daughter of a teacher? No, you're a teacher
Yeah,
too,
I
right?
am a teacher too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So talk about that. Talk about women. Talk about empowerment and girls' education, and tell us about maybe I don't know if your book is connected to this or not, but Voice of Rebellion.
I think
Um,
everything I am is connected to this. Like Marie said, she knew
right.
me before even I knew myself. She was just convinced. She's like, no, you are this character. Like
You are
I've
this
seen
character.
your work. And so for years, like I said, my father, a feminist, I grew up under his influence. He's my hero. He's the person I look up to. And all he wants is equality between men and women.
Mm,
And he can't
mm,
believe that in this century that we're living in, there's still this huge gap,
yeah.
and not just in Afghanistan or these third world countries. You see it right here, and you see it in the States, and you see it in first world countries. So it's unacceptable. And this is how I grew up, with this really strong man, and my mom as well, both of them very strong people. So I grew up like that, and I wanted to do something for Afghanistan, and I wanted to do something for its people. And of course, in our culture, girls are not allowed to do what boys do. In Afghanistan and certain parts of the region, girls are made to sit home and prepare to be a good wife to somebody. My parents did the complete opposite to me. They're like, you're going to be the voice for women. You're going to go out there and you're going to stand up for women, and you're going to make a difference for women in Afghanistan and other parts of the world. And so just having the opportunities, being here in Canada, being able to have all these opportunities, I took advantage of all that. And I mixed journalism, political science, philosophy, and music, and I turned it into the ability to like fight for women's rights. I got an offer to do my own talk show in Afghanistan, where we were talking about taboo subjects that were never brought up even
Wow.
within the household. People were freaking out, but at the same time, there were so many people that were supporting this. my music, like writing lyrics, being the first person to write protest songs for women and women's rights. These were all things that had never happened in Afghanistan because nobody had at that point allowed their daughters to do that. And so here's my dad pushing me to do it. And so it led to a whole bunch of success. I got a chance to perform at the White House, the same protest song for Afghan women. I was asked to perform for President Barack Obama and First Lady
Wow.
at the White House. It's called Afghan Girl. And then and then I got a book offer. I got a book deal and it got released. It's called The Voice of Rebellion. Basically, it's my biography, and they asked if I wanted to write it or if I wanted, somebody else to write it. And I said I prefer somebody else write it because I'm not ready to write my own story. And so
Mm.
it was written by Roberta Staley, really well written. And I'm just, two major things that happened to me in my life was Red Snow, and this all released at the same time. Red Snow and my book released at the same time. So the publicity and it was just probably one of the best years of my life. Absolutely.
So like, hey, you're kind of a big deal too.
She's
Me?
a very
Yeah.
big deal. She's
Not next to
probably-
Marie. Are you kidding me?
That's so funny. We've got this little fight going on here about who is the bigger deal. Yeah, this is the fundamental question coming
I
out of our
hope I can be
podcast
like
today.
Marie one day. I mean, I look up to her and I'm really
We all aspire to that, Mozhdah. Yeah. That's so cool. Well, that's wonderful. Hey, I have a question about your mom and dad. Why them and not somebody else? I mean, why were they so? Why is your dad a feminist? I mean, why so supportive of you pushing back against the status quo? I mean, that's fascinating. I mean, there must have been talk about risk. There must have been death threats maybe. I mean, you must have had some pretty
a
crazy
lot of death threats.
moments. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you
Oh,
go.
a
Yeah.
lot of attacks. I was the punching bag because I was the first
Wow.
girl to make a song after 30 years of war. And, it came out and they specifically said, we don't want you sitting there like wearing the hijab and standing still because there are, our culture's against dancing now. It's like very Islamic and very strict now. So no dancing for women, and especially on stage and especially in front of the camera, all that. They made me do all of it. They're like, you're going to dance, you're
Mm.
going to dress like a little provocative, you're going to do this and that, just to stir people up. And they're like, because Afghanistan was not like that. There was a point where the Shah, the king of Afghanistan during the monarchy, actually forced everyone to remove their hijabs at one point.
Right.
And so very like the forced women, it was almost like during the Russian invasion or the Soviet invasion, they were coerced into like they had to go to school. Girls and boys had to attend school. And so there were all these things that were going on in Afghanistan and progressing the country. And all of a sudden it went back to the dark ages. And so
Mm.
my parents were like, we want to show that we want to remind people of what Afghanistan once was before the war. And so they grew up in a time where there was peace and Afghanistan was progressing rapidly. And so they kept that. They didn't change their ways. And so Afghanistan was forced to change, but their mentality stayed that way,
They stayed the same.
progressing and
Right.
moving forward. And so they showed people that through me, like through their daughter, which was amazing. I just love them for that because
It's got to be pretty hard for a parent to go there as well to still be supportive,
well, the death threats and stuff,
Yeah.
scared my mom a lot.
No kidding. I guess so.
But they're like, somebody's got to do it. When you
Right,
want to
right.
make a change, you got to be the change, and you got to make that move and not let fear take
Mozhdah,
it.
it's amazing, and congratulations on all of the above and the book
Thank
and
you
everything.
so
But
much.
I'm always so blown away, I suppose, and that's really talk about its oversimplification, but just moved by folks who step in and who have the courage and the passion and the commitment and the intention to say, you know what, no, this isn't acceptable. Things need to be different. And so if that's going to happen, I'm going to have to be the prime mover here on this one.
Exactly.
And
Accept all that comes with it.
That's right. And
It's
accept
not
all
pretty.
that. That's right. And this is the risk, it seems to me. But I personally don't see any other way. I really don't.
No,
And this is why
there is no other way. You have to put yourself in that position. You're not going to get any change. You're not going to make any difference. You're not going to see any difference unless you put yourself in a difficult position where you're outside of your comfort zone.
There's a beautiful film, Marie. I don't know if you've seen it or Mozhdah, called "A Flickering Truth." It came out a few years ago. It's a documentary film all about the Afghani film industry, essentially, and it's a doc. New Zealander Pieter Brett Kelly, I think. I'm just pulling this up out of memory. I could punch it up quickly, but it's all these. It starts with all these old 16 millimeter reels. And she goes back and interviews folks, and just as you were talking, we still a little bit about the past and about the Shah and so on, the pictures of dancing and the entertainment scene, and that there was an art scene, right?
Yes,
And
huge.
it's a beautiful film. I really recommend you looking into it. It's called A Flickering Truth.
I'm just going to jot it
Yeah.
down here.
Anyway, yeah,
Yes.
Pietra Brett Kelly is her name. Marie, I want to go back to the snow. I love snow. My problem is I love snow for about a week, and then I'm done. And then I'm just like, can we get back to the spring, please? But you know, snow for you brings love. Again, I want to say this falling upwards notion is just absolutely beautiful and brilliant. And then you have this phrase about snow falling between two worlds. Is that, can I ask you if that's a motivating factor for you? Is that a driving factor of, you know, just kind of riffing off of this notion of change and of stepping in? Is it about building bridges? You know, that kind of supposes there's only two places, but I hope you know what I mean by the question.
Yeah, I think I do think it's about working towards people connecting versus. Uh, I think in the world we're presently in, we can see what people separating looks like, the damage.
Right.
We can see the tension and the violence, and you know what that does to us as human beings that are supposed to know better.
Right.
You
Good.
know,
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, aren't we supposed to know better? That's the question. Yeah.
yeah. So I think, in all our worlds, I think, we're looking to make a better place for our kids. We're looking to understand that, we have to be, it doesn't take sophistication to understand that no matter, what color a person's skin is, they're still human, So I think we're all working, in different ways, and, uh, activating change, through music, as Mozhdah also does, but also activating through story, through features, through any way that we can. And I think it takes a lot of people to come together and keep saying the same thing over and over, and trying to make people feel, so that they can so that their hearts can understand, something bigger.
Nice. Sadly, we are going to have to wrap it up here in about I think a minute or two at the most. I think I have one last question. I mean, I've got way more than one last question, by the way, just so you both know. And I love these types of interviews where I hope you guys are feeling the same way. I feel like
Oh, absolutely.
we barely started,
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the past, about trauma? As you were speaking a bit earlier, I thought of a film last year, Falls Around Her, Darnell Nepon's film, which I think 10-2 Cardinals in as well. And there's this traumatic sort of PTSD, like sort of intergenerational traumatic sort of edge to it. I felt that right out of the gate with your film, that this was going to be a sort of an underlying theme for the whole film, but certainly not on the surface. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people hold trauma in their bodies. Either
Mm,
ones that we've faced ourselves, or ones that our ancestors have faced. Um, and I think that's just a truism. You can't survive some of the atrocities that have befallen a lot of Indigenous peoples,
mm.
and not also carry that knowledge.
Yeah, embodied trauma. It's an unsettling thing, and I think I mean it's like anything, right? I've in the last few years have been seeing more and more. I think narrative and certainly doc film around this notion. I've not heard the phrase embodied trauma too often, I don't think, but this idea that we really need to come to terms with the past and what are those implications. It's not just about somebody saying sorry or that type of reconciliation. This is actually about listening. And I think that's where I was going with the snow and the building of the bridges and so on. And it's why I think it's just so wonderful that you were able to pack so much of that into a beautiful narrative film.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great to talk and hear Mozhdah and yeah, it's always amazing to hear people's reflections about.
Yes, I'm sure it must be pretty weird being on the other side. Yeah, when those Q&As and so on. Mozhdah, can you tell us where to get your book?
Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, all the bookstores, Indigo, Chapters.
Voice of Rebellion, yes?
Anywhere in the States, Canada, and the UK, and anywhere else in the world, like basically through ebooks and Audible.
There's no excuse not to own a copy of this book is basically what you're saying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, listen, what a pleasure talking to you both today. I thank you so much for your time. We've been talking with Mozhdah, Jamalzadah, and Marie Clements about their new film, Red Snow, available on Apple TV Canada. Also, the original soundtrack is available on iTunes. So, and don't forget the book, Voices of Rebellion. Thanks to you both for your time today. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.